If your visual for a caddy is limited to a professional tour where a guy lugs around a bag the size of a small car while wearing a sponsor logoed bib, and that's your only vision, you're going to enjoy the conversation in the moments ahead as we visit with a man who came to caddying really out of desperation when everything else in his life was falling apart. Mark Milatz is the author of a book called Caddie Tales, and we're talking with him straight ahead. If you love a good story, you're going to love the next few moments as we visit with our special guest, the author of a new book called Caddie Tales, A Looper's Search for Lost Golf Balls and What He Found Instead. His name is Mark Milatz. And Mark, you and I have never met before, but I turn on the Zoom and here you are wearing a Detroit Lions shirt. And I read in your bio that you're a Michigan fan. So I figured, man, I must be talking to some guy in Detroit or Ann Arbor.
Yeah, right.
No, he's in Wisconsin. So, how did you come to like the teams that I like so quickly?
Well, I am born and raised in the Detroit area. I grew up in Metro Detroit, and then for 15 years lived over in Livingston County. So I am a definite fan of all things local, and I like to rep them, especially with the Lions doing so well this year.
It is kind of a fun time. It's one of the only times in my life when I've been able to say, how fun is it to be a Lions fan right now? So we'll hopefully be able to continue saying that in the days ahead. And I also discovered when doing a little bit of reading through your book that you have a background that's very near and dear to my heart. You come to the world of caddying by way of pastoring. That's
Yeah.
not a common route. So retrace some of those steps for me, if you would.
Yeah. Well, I wish that my story was a better one to tell. Yeah, I was a pastor for a number of years, and also helped teach in a school that we ran, and I had a lot of anxiety and depression during that time, which just snowballed into a myriad of bad choices and ultimately led to me leaving my church and ultimately that career. And so my wife is here from Wisconsin. And as we were making that transition, we decided to um, move out to Wisconsin. And as I was looking for new work, honestly, I just kind of stumbled upon caddying and at a course here, and so really was not something I ever planned on getting into. One kind of by desperation, but one that's been a real blessing.
Hmm. Sometimes the real story behind somebody's heart and their passion comes out of their pain. It comes out of the things that didn't go according to the script. And obviously anybody who enters into the pastorate, I think, did so intending to be in it for a very long time, right? So it's really pretty unique that you would be willing to share some of that pain in the hopes that it keeps other people from experiencing the same thing. Is that part of the Caddie
Yeah,
Tales book?
absolutely. And it's really also me just making a decision because I was paralyzed for a long time. A lot of shame, a lot of fear, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of pain. Making a decision if I want to make more of my life moving forward. And I had to really ask myself and even others, do I have permission to go and do new things and continue to utilize my gifts and skills in a way that would not only take care of my family, but would also be edifying to me and also would be helpful to others. And so, um, one, I just felt like telling that story was me kind of in a way saying, okay, I'm moving forward with my life. And then two, I do have a real sincere hope that no matter where people are at in their journey, they can see a lot of parallels because I am totally convinced that we all go through deep struggles, and I correlate a lot of that to a round of golf. There's a lot of difficulties, and yet there's also a lot of opportunity, and there's always a next shot. And I'm kind of trying to help tell that story through the book in what I hope is a fun and entertaining way.
And I want to be A, respectful, and B, very careful, because it is not my place as a podcast interviewer to ask you to bare your soul to a bunch of strangers. So I'm not about clickbait. We're not doing that, but I'll let you share as much of your journey as you want to when it comes to kind of what took you away from pastoring and over into the world of golf. And if you've already done that, that's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. I'm not going to push those buttons.
Yeah.
Um, but kudos to you for sticking with it and remembering that you still have a family to support. There are so many men who have been, for whatever reasons, have been driven out or have left their roles, not just in ministry, but in fathering, and have left their families to fend for themselves. Did you struggle with that temptation at the time of a career transition?
No, I'm blessed with a wonderful wife and four great kids, and really that is uh such a gift to me. And even as I felt a deep sense of personal loss, and even as I felt a real sense of failure, I knew that ultimately that was my they were worth fighting for. They continue to be. They continue to lift me up. And so, no, they're my greatest gift, and so I'm very thankful in that way. You just have this. You hit crossroads in life, and you say, "I'm either going to keep going," and in this day and age, it's hard because my experience is that people very much relish other people's pain. They relish tearing other people's down because it does serve as an opportunity to build themselves up. And I know that I'm an easy mark.
Hmm.
And uh, do I fear that? Absolutely. Do I, uh, take any sort of joy in that? Not one bit. But I just ultimately decided that I have gifts, I have skills, I have talents, and I have responsibilities. And so I'm going to seek to do my best to use all of them. And then I'm just thankful that there was a door to walk through, and that the opening was available to me, and that I, get to use a lot of the same skills that I had in the past in my new job. Players don't often realize that there's a lot of correlations there. Some of them would laugh at that. Some of them would probably be horrified by that. But there's a lot of correlations as far as your need to encourage others, and your need to be patient, and just so many other things that I also kind of throw out and talk about in the book.
Yeah, I'll just read one sentence from the first part of the book. It says, "I blew up a lot more than a round of golf and found myself in a deeper hole than even the biggest bunker that any golfer has ever hit into. Broken relationships, lost reputation, lost career, legal entanglements, days full of sadness and regret, and for a time, hopelessness. And you say, in the midst of a whole lot of carnage, I stumbled into caddying out of desperation." So, Mark, when I first picked up the book, I thought I was going to read just a nonstop cavalcade of hilarious stories from the golf course and the caddy shack and all that. And there certainly are some very good stories in here. But in most cases, they have a connection, as you were saying, they have a connection over to real life. How long did it take you? You were desperate. You were looking for something to do to feed the family. How long did it take you before you realized that being a caddy could help allow you the time to heal
Yeah.
your inside, heal your heart, get your relationship right vertically as well as horizontally, and then
Yeah.
start to see some of those parallels between life and golf?
Yeah. Probably pretty early on, but I would say, you know, uh, I started to think more seriously about it probably by my second year, when I started having a Twitter account and just kind of immersing myself in the life a little bit more. Um, when I first started caddying, it was just a whirlwind, like I didn't know what I was doing. My body was always in pain. And there was a whole lot of other stuff on my mind. But you know, it's hard to pinpoint, but slowly over time, I thought, well, this may be an open door into just a broader life, and one that stretches a little further into the future than I at first envisioned. And I still actually don't know all the ways that it's going to continue to you maybe grow, and what other doors may open. I'm hopeful that there's some opportunities, uh, and some ways to enhance this. But uh, I've taking it kind of a day at a time, and this writing this book was probably like uh, my first significant foray into saying, this is my voice now. This is the story that I have, and this is something that I'm going to do with my life.
You you know very well that a lot of people, when they think of or they close their eyes and picture a caddy, they're picturing somebody on tour. They're wearing the bib with that week's sponsor logo on it. They're hoping to collect 10% of a first place paycheck. Obviously, the vast majority of caddies in this world are in their 20s. They're college kids, they're trying to earn, or high school kids are trying to earn some bucks. They're not wearing a bib with anybody's logo on it unless the club where they work has them do that. How what was it like when you first started? You didn't start this when you were a college kid. You weren't a frat
Yeah.
belly when you went into this. You probably came right out of the chute with a double loop day, wondering if you could make it through.
Yeah, it was painful. I remember vividly, wh for the first month after I moved here, my family hadn't moved here from Michigan yet, and, we hadn't gotten into our new place here, and so I was living with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their family for a month. And, my mother-in-law and father-in-law happened to come over one evening, my first week. I think it was the first week that I had started, to see how I was doing, and it was like 6 o'clock, and I had already gone to bed. And I remember just like, uh, just if I wasn't working, I felt like I was laying down or just sleeping. It was a huge adjustment physically. I remember the first time that I, you know, carried 2 bags, how by the end of the loop, I was pulling my fingers back because they were cramping up. And so, yeah, it was definitely tough. It takes an adjustment. And this still happens every year at the beginning of the season. Your feet just have to get reacclimated, and everybody's dealing with plantar fasciitis or Achilles pain or whatever. And the older you are, the harder it gets. So, yeah, it was really tough.
Just a few days ago, I led a group of our viewers down to French Lick to play golf. And at the die course, the Pete die course, a four caddy is mandatory for each group. And we had a great four caddy. His name is Bobby Watkins. And we were talking about his history there. He's been there 9 seasons. This course is brutal. From the tips, which obviously I didn't play, it's 8,100 yards.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's up and down like a roller coaster. And I asked him how often he double loops, and he said he averages about 20 miles a day doing, two
yeah,
loops. And this is hard stuff. And that course, and he's four caddying. So in other words, we all still have our carts, and he is
yeah, yeah,
walking, but he's not carrying. Um, but I got the feeling that he was able to assess before we started what his day was going to be like.
yeah,
Caddies develop some sort of an antenna, a radar that helps
yeah,
them kind of discern what they're getting into, whether it's the married couple, as you write in your book, the father and son, the buddy's annual trip, the country club group, the corporate outing. What did you most dread and most look forward to as a caddy for by way of clients?
yeah. I always tell groups when they, especially the groups that are a little nervous at the bag drop about going out. I always say, and they apologize for how they play. I say, on the list of things caddies care about, the quality of your play is like doesn't crack the top 5.
Hmm.
I know at least that's true for me. I think probably it's true for a lot of caddies that I know. You want some humility, you want some realistic expectations, and you can tell really quickly if those things are present in a group. As you get out there, you like a nice swift pace of play. I had a group just yesterday, and then I was with them again today. One of the things I appreciated about them is they were playing a match. And yesterday, it was hard conditions. It was windy. The loop was taking a long, the course was slow. So they were doing their part by, if somebody had won the hole or whatever, the other person just picked up, or if they got to, in this case, double bogey, they were picking up. And you always appreciate things like that because it shows a level of conscientiousness. It shows some humility. You want people who just also remember that golf is fun. And sometimes you feel like you're with people and you're like, do they even enjoy this? So for me, and I talk about this in the book, golf is a very special opportunity to grow friendships, to enhance fellowship. It's as I say, it's viewed as an individual sport, and yet it's inherently social and group oriented. And so to me, when those things are present, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy that more than someone who's just grinding through the day and getting frustrated quite frequently, and maybe taking it more seriously than their skills allow. And even when they're really good players, that there's going to be those loops where people are really really locked in and serious, and that's great for them. It's probably not my favorite kind of loop. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I enjoy the ones where people are having fun, they're talking, they're making jokes, they're laughing off the bad shots, they're celebrating really big after the good ones. That's fun for me.
Yeah, you write about some of the characteristics you most enjoy about a player that didn't pout, didn't hold up play, didn't load up his bag with heavy stuff he didn't need, was generous, and was mindful of how blessed he was to be able to play on that trip. He was just fun to be around. I'm wondering, I'll go with this phrase that I don't know if it's common or not, but I'll adapt it for our purposes. You can take the boy out of the pulpit, but you can't never take the pulpit out of the boy. Do
Yeah.
you ever find yourself wanting to just kind of put your arm around a player and go, listen, man, we got to start focusing on the big picture here. This
Oh
really
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I try to, there's little ways you do that. You try to say something positive as often as you can. Um, but yeah, I'll try to accentuate some sort of good thought to somebody, especially when I see them down in the dumps. And uh, because I'm like, it's just, they spent too much money or they've invested too much time, whatever it is, to just be feeling like that, especially over a game. So yeah, I do find myself having a little bit of a heart for helping them through those moments.
You have a unique concept in here that I have seen played out a number of times in real life. Just says nod and smile.
Yeah.
So, as the caddy, when you're faced with what my old psychiatry teacher or psychology teacher would label delusions of grandeur, the job of the caddy isn't to tell the guy what he can't do, but it's, I guess, probably just to nod and smile at times.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you shared every thought that came to your head on certain days, it wouldn't go very well for you because some you hear the same things over and over again. So, there's that. But, sometimes you just know things aren't going to work out the way somebody maybe is envisioning. I think I talk about, didn't come all this way to lay up. And, there's certainly a time and a place for that. And if people want to do that, that's fine. But there's no doubt that there's times where you're like, absolutely, you should just not go for it. And you're just nod and smile. Okay, I'm not going to fight you on it. And so, yeah, and there's kind of like similar things that pop up all the time that you hear over and over again, or you see over and over again. And, you just go with it. One of the things that I do on a kind of a being fair to players notice, I do this every day. So, for them, it's maybe a once a year thing to have something like that, or it's, a trip like that. So I have to remember not to get desensitized and, find myself getting annoyed or frustrated, because while it might be the thousandth time I've heard somebody say the same thing that summer, it's just the first time that person has said it. And so, you cut them a little slack and you try to be patient and nod and smile.
I love the part about heavy baggage. For all of us who love the game, the tendency is, because we're going to most often be on a cart, we put enough stuff in that bag to feed and care for a family of four for roughly 45 days, just in case you're all stranded out in the wilderness somewhere. And then you come upon the instance where you get a caddy to be part of your day, and probably don't give much thought to what's in the bag or how much it weighs. The concept of heavy baggage you address in the book, both from a literal physical standpoint, and then also from that kind of that mental, emotional, spiritual standpoint. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I talk about the heavy bags, they'll weigh us down, but we're all carrying around something. And we need whatever, whether it's pain, whether it's past trauma, whether it's stress. There's stuff that's weighing us down, bogging us down, and we all need people in our life who come and encourage us and help lighten the load and set us a little more free. And I was carrying around a lot of heavy baggage for a lot of years, and I wish I would have let it go a lot sooner because I would have saved myself and my family and others so much pain. You don't set out to destroy your life. You don't set out to hurt others, and you it happens slowly. One little thing you add to the bag, time after time after time. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, but eventually it all adds up, and eventually it all becomes too much, and eventually it drags us down. And so, I think we all need our loads lightened a bit.
Hmm.
And so, I look at my role on the golf course, similar to the role that I had, in my past, and that is that, especially when somebody's frustrated or they're angry, I'm there to help lighten their load. There to help encourage them. I'm there to help make their day better. And if we have people in our life like that, things are bound to go a lot better for all of us. And so we got to seek to be that kind of person for others as well.
Yeah, and you write really powerfully about the concept of taking a caddy, and I think the overall purpose behind that chapter is that going through life in isolation and going through life alone without somebody by your side to lend advice and to just kind of help clean up the messes, it's a really, really rough way to go. And it sounds to me like that's something you might have experienced while you were a
Yeah.
pastor. Is that
Yeah, and it's not
accurate?
that there weren't people available. There's a guy that jumps out to me from earlier this season. I went out for a second loop, and it ended up just being a single bag because a guy showed up. The other bag showed up and said, "Oh, they didn't want a caddy," and that happens sometimes, not very often. So they were taking their own bag, and as we went through the round, uh, and you don't know if people are doing that, whether just they don't want to spend the money or whatever reason, if they had a bad experience. So we go through that. This guy's a very nice guy, and I ended up helping him out some. And at the end of the round, he comes and hands me some money, and I'm like, "Oh no, you don't need to do that." And he goes, "No, no, no, you were very helpful." But he made the comment that he didn't take a caddy because he was so nervous and scared about it. He'd never been to a course with caddies before, and he was not a good player. He was actually very bad, and there were times I was happy he didn't take a caddy because I didn't have to go look for his ball all the time. But he was just scared. He thought he'd get judged or embarrassed, and that's really not what we do. We see everything out there. Yeah, and so anyway, there was help available to him. He just didn't want to take it. He was afraid to take it, and that's kind of the category that I would have put myself in, because there were people who cared about me and loved me. But I was so embarrassed or hurting inside and going through so much pain that I didn't want to, like, become too vulnerable or let myself out there. And so, what I always say to players, again, assuring them that their score or their level of play is not the thing we care about. I always say to people, we have seen every possible kind of golf out here, and you are not going to be the worst. And so you're just trying to set them at ease. I know somebody's got to be the worst, but you're just trying to say, we've seen it all. We've seen the bad. We're not going to judge you. You're not going to be embarrassed. Let's just go through this together. And that usually calms them down a little bit.
This game has a uncanny way of revealing a number of things about each person who takes part in it. It shows you your character, your integrity. It puts on display your anger management capacity. I've often said the best job interview setting, if the interviewee was a golfer, would be to take them out for a round of golf and just watch and see how many foot wedges or how many tantrums or
Yeah.
what the language was like out there, because for some reason the game drives us all batty to the point where we aren't often are at our best when we're out. From the caddy standpoint, with the caddy slash pastor being the thought process, um, what have you seen revealed about people as you've been with them, both the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah. You do see some cheating, but that's actually more rare than you think, or a lot of people would think, because there's a lot of people who do respect the rules of the game. I would say the thing that my heart goes out for the most for people is, and where I can see myself in it, is they push themselves so hard, they're driving so hard for good results and perfection that they have no ability to enjoy the journey, but also to find something good when things don't meet their expectations. So that's especially the person who's kind of cussing their way and slamming their clubs all the way through the round. They just miss out on so much good stuff because they can't handle anything less than the great. And often I think that they, internally they're feeling embarrassed by it. They're feeling, not like they're measuring up. They've set some arbitrary standard. And um so I have both, frustrations out there. Sometimes I feel pity. But I certainly understand it because, that was the mindset that I often had that left me feeling like always on edge, because if things weren't perfect or if I wasn't perfect, I just couldn't see any of the good stuff around me. And so that I really struggle with. On the flip side, I just mentioned, everybody needs that person by their side to encourage them. I do find that out on the golf course, by and large, that is the mindset that people have. They might get mad at themselves all the time. They might, uh, you know, not like their bad shots, but when another person is struggling, I usually see some real positive behaviors come out as far as others encouraging them, calming them down, remaining patient, and I find that to be pretty encouraging. That at our when the rubber meets the road, a lot of us do. When we see somebody else in pain, we want to help them.
So, as we kind of wind down our time together, how are you doing? How is Mark Milatz doing? Not Mark the caddy, not Mark the
Yeah,
pastor, but Mark the husband, the dad, the man who obviously has been through a lot of difficult stuff.
yeah. There's a lot of good that's going on. Like I said, I'm blessed with wonderful kids. Uh, I have a wife who is faithful and loves me, and so there's a lot of good there. I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish that there were certain things that haven't kind of improved or gone a little bit faster in life, and or certain doors that hadn't opened, and certain struggles that I wish wouldn't still follow me around or seek to latch onto me. But and there's certainly a sense of loss that I think I'll feel forever on this side of the ground. But there's a lot of good that's going on, and I'm hopeful. One of the things that uh this book is, it's an opportunity to tell my story. It's an opportunity to have some fun. It's hopefully an opportunity to help others think about their life and their golf game, or to laugh a little bit, all those things. But I also am hopeful that it's maybe a step towards some other doors opening, not away from caddying per se, but in addition to, and in relation to. And so I'm feeling that hopefulness, and also kind of feeling like, okay, I'm open to what never might come, and also recognizing that it may not come at the speed that I want it to. So doing well in all those regards. I'm a little tired as the season comes to an end. My feet are really hurting. And I'm feeling, just tired out. Every day is a little bit more of a grind because we have a little worse weather and a little more wind and all that stuff to contend with. But I always seem to make it through all that stuff just fine.
Well, let me remind you of something you already know, and it may sound odd for a number of our golf audience listeners, but I will just remind the pastor of this, that even though those moments come where you wonder if God has remembered you, he has, right? He will never leave you nor forsake you. That's the truth of his word. And there is healing, my man. So you know that, and hopefully that's still part of your journey, and hopefully the Lord is still knocking on your heart to do great things for him, just in a different role, if that's the way that it has to go.
Yeah, and I think that there is healing, and I know not everybody listening to this may share my background or what is obviously on your heart or your background, but I think that this reality is universal. That there is, as I say in the book, always a next shot. There's hope, and we need to be encouraging each other not to give up, and that we can see that there's healing, and that there's the opportunity for growth, and that hope can win the day. And so I see, a lot of that in the game of golf. And so I'm thankful for the opportunities that I have through this book, and just in general, to say how those things on the course also mirror life so often.
Yeah, it
They really do.
took a lot of courage to put onto into written form the things that you've experienced. So thank you for doing that, because in the end, the hope is, the prayer is that it helps at least one person who may be going through some of the same issues that you've been dealing with.
Yeah.
The book
Yeah.
is called Caddie Tales, a looper's search for lost golf balls and what he found instead. It's written by Mark Milatz. And Mark, I am glad we got the chance to meet, brother. Keep
Yeah, I am too. And
that.
if I could just say real quickly before we go that, for those who might be interested in it, I think as of today, it is available on Amazon for pre-order, and it'll be available for immediate downloading or order by hard copy on October 18th. So hopefully people will take a look and see that for themselves. But I thank you for your time and the chance to talk, and to be able to tell my story, and for you to hear it in such a respectful way. And I hope that there will be others who have open hearts and ears to hear it in the same way.